UFC Fight Night, Cannonier versus Rodrigues in the glorious Apex Arena. I love the Apex so much. Oh boy, I love it. I'm so happy. To be honest, even though this is an Apex card, it's actually pretty good. Like it's it's sad to say, it's kind of neck and neck with the pay-per-view we just had. Like, really good main event, I would say. This is a good Fight Night main event. Certainly if we're in the Apex. But even if this were in front of a crowd, I think this would be pretty good. Good co-main, feature fight's okay. Yeah, nothing like amazing, but all these are all, well, I was about to say these are all good matchups. Yeah, pretty decent Fight Night card. I really seriously hope we can throw the Apex in the ocean in the coming years, because this isn't the worst of them. We've had some truly abominable Apex cards. This one's at least watchable, but I think it'd be good in front of a crowd. I'm just saying. Even if throwing a bunch of crazy names on here, let's get this shit in front of a crowd. You're telling me that these first two, and honestly, well, just in general, I think a lot of these can result in some finishes, and I think a crowd pop adds a lot. So that's just me. There's my cold take of the century. Opening up the prelims, we got Julia Avila versus Jacqueline Cavalcanti. I probably did not pronounce that correctly. Okay, so this one is not that interesting. It's pretty cut and dry as far as I'm concerned. I think Cavalcanti's got this one in the bag. I think she has nice, crisp, straight strikes. She's rangier, a little bit taller, I guess, but you would think she just has like extremely long, spindly limbs, and she uses them well. She's just more successful at putting a hurting on people than Avila is. This is largely going to be a striking matchup, and I like her chances. Julia Avila always brings it, you know, she's always game, she's always aggressive, but that doesn't mean it's very pretty to watch. She kind of strikes like Michael J. Fox on roller skates. It's not great to look at. I mean, she makes it work for her, but I don't think she's going to be able to do anything to Cavalcanti. I think she's about to get lit up, unfortunately for her. Oh boy, Dontel Mays versus Walter Walker. Ugh. Honestly, this is one of those where both guys kind of ebb and flow what kind of conditioning they're in, what kind of shape they're in. A few fights ago, Dontel Mays wasn't in that bad of a shape. 2 fights ago, Walter Walker was one of the blobs. But if we're going off of their most recent performances that we've seen them in, Dontel Mays did not look very good in that Shamil Gaziev fight. Walter Walker actually looked like he lost a lot of weight and he was in pretty good shape. Got an early submission. That's kind of how I see this one going. I don't really understand why Walker is the underdog. That makes no sense to me. I get like maybe 2 fights ago, sure, but Dontel Mays is seriously incredibly unremarkable. I don't understand why he's the favorite. I got Walter Walker by submission, or maybe a really ugly wet blanket decision. That's what I think is going to happen. Vince Morales versus Elijah Smith. Elijah Smith's coming off Dana White's Contender Series, had a bit of a back and forth war, I guess you'd call it. Pretty fun fight with Toe. I don't remember his first name. I'm so sorry. Vince Morales has been in the UFC for a while. He was cut after going on a bit of a skid. Came back against Lapoulos on the last UFC Fight Night in Paris and lost again. Vince Morales' level is basically, he's good enough to lose competitive decisions. Like, he's a tough out. That's basically it. Like, he's skilled. He's decent. Anyone that is anyone in this division, he's lost to. I think his best win is Ayman Zahabi, and that's about it. He just loses to everyone. So yes, you should pick Elijah Smith. He is taller. He is rangier, especially with the leg reach. He has knockout power. He has nice grappling. He's very well-rounded. My issue is that Elijah Smith kind of started to wilt at the end of that Dana White Contender Series fight when the other guy was just really game, was walking him down. Like, Toe took that 3rd round. And Vince Morales is very tough. And so what I fear in this one is a bit of an Anshul Jubilee versus Mike Breeden situation, where it's like, yes, obviously I'm going to pick the up-and-coming, really skilled prospect over the grizzled veteran who's kind of not that good, but then they kind of get out-dogged a little bit. I don't know what the dog meter is like for Smith, but I'm still going to pick him, but I'm going to feel like a fucking idiot if Morales manages to pull this one off and get a comeback win. I do think Smith's got it, but very tentatively picking him. Got one of 2 Bonfils. We got the bigger one in Gabriel taking on Chaos Williams. I still find it crazy that that's his actual name. That's his name on paper. Yeah, I think most people are going with Gabriel Bonfim on this one, but I'm gonna go with Chaos Williams. I believe in the power in the hands of Williams. And here's the thing about Bonfim. He's skilled. Yes, he's decent. However, he does kind of gas a little bit in his fights. And when he gasses, his defense goes out the window. And let me just say that if we're talking about keeping the head off the center line to avoid getting punched in the head, Gabriel Bonfim kind of keeps his head like this when he starts to wilt. And who hits really hard? Chaos Williams. He throws hooks like a fucking madman. So yeah, I think I'm going to be picking Chaos Williams to catch Bonfim, get the knockout. That's how I see this one going. I think Bonfim's more skilled than Williams. I do think maybe if there's grappling involved, he could sync up a submission or something, but I believe in the power of Chaos Williams. Next we got Rafael Estevam versus Jesus Aguilar. So this one, it's kind of like just a grappler versus grappler type setup, except I am going to be going with Estevam. I think I like his chances due to the dimensions he has on Aguilar. Aguilar is fucking tiny. He's a small ass flyweight. And Aguilar, you know, when he faces other grapplers, he doesn't tend to do as well, especially if they're bigger than him. He got submitted by Tyra and then won a split decision against Mendoza, which I don't think he should have won that. I had Mendoza win the last 2 rounds. So I think when he faces other grapplers that, especially in this case where he has certain physical advantages on him, I just think Estevan's going to be able to big brother him a little bit. I mean, yeah, he has that 1-punch KO over Shannon Ross, but Shannon Ross doesn't really have a chin. He is chinless, so I don't really rate that much. I got Estevan winning by pretty much whatever he wants. Next, we got a late notice replacement for Jared Gordon in Mashrabjan Ruzabayev, I believe. I thought it was Ruzaboyev initially, but it's Ruzabayev. Jared Gordon is solid. He is the solidest fighter of all time. Like, not quite the elite level, but he always comes to scrap. He's very skilled pretty much everywhere. Good grappling, good clinch striking, nice boxing. He does kind of dip his head in a weird way, and I'm surprised no one has fed him a knee in the past. Ruzabayev does have some knockout power, but on this short a notice, I just don't really see him being able to do anything to Jared Gordon. The odds are pretty tight. I guess Ruzabayev is dangerous, but Jared Gordon's just been in there with everyone pretty much. So, like, he's very much under the radar, but when you go through Jared Gordon's career, he's only lost like a couple times. And no, the Paddy Pimblett one does not count, obviously, but it's like Grant Dawson, Diego Fajeda, Charles Oliveira, and like one other loss, I think. Dude's just pretty solid. He wins most of the time. He always brings it. That Haqparast fight was gnarly. I would be very shocked if Jared Gordon didn't have this one in the bag. Closing out the prelims, we got Angela Hill versus Ketlin Souza. This one is a pick'em, and to be honest with you, I'm not really sure why. I kind of think Ketlin Souza's got this one in the bag. Angela Hill is good. She's good. She's solid. But in the past, when she has to face other grapplers, she tends to lose. And in some cases, they can kind of turn into striking matches. And Ketlin Souza is just more dangerous on the feet. She's nasty. She's fucking mean. This woman's scary. Yeah, I got Ketlin Souza probably by pretty dominant decision, I would say, where it's going to be competitive, but Ketlin's just going to bank all the rounds on damage. Opening up the main card, we got Connor Matthews versus Jose Delgado. Delgado just came off Contender Series, as you can see. He looked really slick in that fight. Really impressive. Really nice, crisp, clean boxing. Very rangy. Good on the ground, too. Connor Matthews coming off a loss to Dennis Bazooka, he didn't look bad in that fight, but, you know, Dennis Bazooka, I think that's his only win, actually, in the UFC is against this guy. He just kind of got starched in that fight. Had some early success, but then after that, it was just kind of a wrap from the start of round 2 onward. Yeah, I got Jose Delgado. I think he's cleaner everywhere. He has much better striking. He's longer. In fact, the height difference here is pretty much exactly the same as the guy that he just knocked out in the first round. I got Delgado by knockout, probably. Connor Matthews he seems to look solid. I like his movement on the feet, but Delgado just seems more dangerous. Rodolfo Vieira versus Andrei Petroski. This one should be a grappler matchup. And honestly, Vieira is another one of those like under the radar fighters. He's been around for a while. He's fought plenty of recognizable names, at least to hardcores. He's honestly doing pretty good right now, coming off a couple wins, couple submissions. He only has 2 losses as far as I know to Chris Curtis and Anthony Hernandez, which is, I mean, that's fine. Anthony Hernandez is the dark horse of this division. And the Chris Curtis fight was honestly pretty close. He made that really competitive. And Chris Curtis is like the Jared Gordon of middleweight. Like he's always game. You know, he'll win one, lose one, but he's just solid. Always a tough fight. Vieira made that close. He is like glue on people in the grappling. And Petroski's a grappler too, but honestly, it's another one of those. I've said this a few times in this card. We have some, you know, pretty similar stylistic matchups where it's like both guys are kind of good at the same things, but whatever Petroski can do, Vieira can do better. In my opinion, I think he's better on the feet. I think he carries more power. I think he's more competent up there. And then in the grappling, he just snaps into positions and locks up submissions just like that, like drop of a hat. So yeah, I got Vieira probably. I think he could submit him, honestly. Petroski's not bad or anything. I just think Vieira's better. We got Ismail Bonfim versus Nazim Sadikov. I went back and forth on this one. The odds were a little closer when I was looking at it earlier. For me, it was like, yes, Ismail Bonfim had some attention brought to him when he knocked out Terrence McKinney. But honestly, anyone who's faced McKinney who has a decent amount of power has knocked him out. He's very chinny. He's a glass cannon. So that doesn't really mean anything. He did look really good in that fight, to clarify. That was a good win, don't get me wrong. But maybe it kind of overhyped him a little bit. He got beat up by BSD in their fight, which is fine. BSD's mean. He puts a hurting on people. Whatever. But then his bounce back fight against Vince Pichel, who was like 40 and hadn't fought in 2 years, that was just not that impressive. I'm sorry. He was playing it super safe. It seemed like he wanted to just get a nice, cool, comfortable bounce back win. And it had me thinking, okay, maybe he's not that good. And if Nazem Sadykhov can match him in the striking and maybe have the grappling advantage, I kind of want to pick him. But honestly, when watching them, this will likely be a striker versus striker matchup, and I do like Bonfim's chances. I think he's just quicker. I think he hits harder. Again, I was edging towards Nazem Sadykhov, but who also has a win over Terrence McKinney. To clarify, that was a more grappling heavy one. Bonfim definitely had the more explosive finish over him. But yeah, I'm gonna go Bonfim. Yeah, this one, I don't know why I don't like this one. There's a couple on this card where it's like, I feel like I'm picking the wrong thing either way. I don't know. I'm gonna go Bonfim. We're gonna lock that in. Feature fight of the evening, we'll get the return of Edmund Shabazian taking on Dylan Budka. This is a far more favorable matchup for Shabazian than he's had in the past. Here's the deal. Edmund Shabazian's just kind of not that good. He's dangerous on the feet. He has wicked power, but every time he faces a grappler, he loses. Every time. He was once this, like, I mean, his nickname's the Golden Boy. He pretty much seemed that way in like 2020 when he was like at number 10 in the rankings. But then every time he fought a grappler, he got mopped, like he couldn't do anything. But Dylan Budka is another striker who also can't grapple. So pretty good matchup, honestly. And yeah, I just think Edmund Shabazian's got this one. I think he's way more dangerous. He hits way harder. I don't rate Dylan Budka, really. I don't, I'm sorry. They're both coming off of losses, but given that Shabazian's weakness is in the grappling, him getting submitted by GM3 isn't that crazy. It's not that shocking. I just don't see that being a factor in this fight. I think it's going to be on the feet. Shabazian has every advantage. I think he's going to knock him out. And we're going to think for a second that Shabazian's back, but we can't fall for it this time. We won't fall for it. Co-main of the evening, Calvin Kattar versus Youssef Zalal. I am not going against the grain on this one. I'm going with Youssef Zalal. I think it's easy to forget how good Calvin Kattar is, because I mean, if we're just thinking about the most recent time we saw him, that was UFC 300, where he looked very shy to commit to anything against Aljamain Sterling. Aljo was like outlanding him on the feet just because the threat of the takedown was there. He looked very tepid. And then if we think a little further back, and probably what first comes to mind for people is him getting his ass crushed by Max Holloway. That one was hard to watch. Like on one hand, it was fucking awesome to watch, but on the other hand, that's just what happens when there's an ass whooping like that. It's like, it's beautiful and disturbing at the same time. Kattar got destroyed. But honestly, he's a really good boxer. He has good takedown defense. He has knockout power. He has some decent wins. He took Zabit to a decision back in the day. No one talks about that. Beat Dan Ige. He knocked out Jeremy Stevens. Completely derailed the hype train of Giga Chikadze. Looked fantastic in that fight. I think there are two different kinds of Calvin Kattars. There's the Calvin Kattar in the Giga fight, where he's being aggressive and marching someone down and eating shots because he has an iron chin. That's another thing. Crazy chin. And just cutting them open with elbows and straight 1-2s down the pipe. And just the conditioning he has is really good, so he's able to push a crazy pace. But if there is either a power discrepancy or a grappling discrepancy, if someone has something on him, he kind of gets stuck in the mud a little bit. We saw that in the Josh Emmett fight. I don't know why that was controversial to people. I thought Josh Emmett took the first 3 rounds. Even if they were, kind of landing neck and neck in a couple of them, I thought Josh Emmett landed the more dangerous blows, and he clearly had Kattar's respect. Kattar was not trying to risk anything. Against Aljo, same thing, except with the wrestling threat. And then there is that, I forgot he fought Arnold Allen. That one was kind of weird. It was a fluky, injury. He busted his leg when he was going for this weird flying knee. But honestly, Arnold Allen was kind of piecing him up before that anyway. It just kind of seems like for the last 3 fights, we haven't seen the best Calvin Kattar. He doesn't seem as game or as fast as he used to be. Whereas Youssef Zalal has a complete opposite side of that coin. Zalal was in the UFC years ago. Around the time Calvin Kattar was doing really well, Youssef Zalal was not at all. He had a bit of a skid there. Lost to Ilia Topuria, Sean Woodson, Sungwoo Choi. Just wasn't lighting the octagon on fire back then. But then last year, he's welcome back to the UFC, takes a short notice fight against Billy Quarantillo, looks amazing in that fight. Beat his ass. He looked so sharp. Then beats Jarno Aarons and Jack Shore. He's just looked really solid, really slick, really technical. And I do think this one's going to be more competitive than that. I think it's easy to look at their records and kind of just think off the top of your head who's doing better, who's looking better, what trajectories they're on in both their careers. And you go, yeah, Youssef Zalal is probably going to beat him up. But I do think Kattar's going to make this competitive. I think it's going to be mostly striking. I don't see Zalal really pushing Kattar back in the same way. He doesn't have the craziest amount of power. He does have the grappling threat. I don't think it's going to be like Kattar stuck in the the mud. I think we'll get game Calvin Kattar. I just think he's slower, older, he hasn't been looking in top form either way. I got Yusuf Zalal probably by decision, but I do think it's going to be a little closer than we're thinking. I don't think he's going to get mauled. Main event of the evening. Okay, so I picked a few underdogs on this card. This might turn around and bite me in the ass, and I'm going to lose all credibility entirely. I don't know why, but I want to pick Jared Cannonier in this one. I know he's coming off of 2 losses. I know he got knocked out and then just kind of started looking old for the first time in that Caio Bravo fight. Cannonier for the longest time. I mean, the dude's like 41 or something. He looks fantastic. Like not just the way he looks, but I just mean his performances. He's always in crazy shape, always pushing a crazy pace. Incredible athlete. But he did start to show his age a little bit in that Caio Bravo fight. But I don't know, man. Gregory Rodrigues is good, but he is not on the level of the competition that has been beating Cannonier. I think Cannonier can beat. I don't want to start using MMA math here. I won't do it. Should I pick Rodrigues? Should I? I probably should. He's taller, he hits hard, he has really good grappling. I should probably pick Gregory Rodrigues. I really should. Cannonier's chin might be getting a little testy. He's getting older. Rodrigues, despite the fact that he actually looks older than Cannonier, around the same age, is 32 years old. And he's been looking really good, you know, the whole trajectory argument. Why do I want to pick Jared Cannonier? Is it bias? I'm not a huge Jared Cannonier fan. I just kind of have a feeling he's going to knock Rodrigues out. I just got a feeling. You know what? I did. No, I did the same thing with the Israel Adesanya one. No, I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't do it. Oh, no. Oh, I'm struggling here. I should pick Rodrigues. If you're smart, you pick Rodrigues. I'm picking Jared Cannonier by knockout. I don't care. Fuck it. This is not smart. This is a bad pick. He's coming off a couple bad losses, bro. I still think he's good, though. I still think he looked good in the Imavov fight before the, finish, which wasn't an early stoppage. Didn't look great in the Cal Baralho fight. Jared Cannonier by 2nd round knockout. Lock it in. You saw it here first. I'm about to fucking hate these words, bro. This is stupid. Anyways, that's my coverage on UFC Fight Night Cannonier versus Rodrigues. Despite it being in the smelly ass Apex, it should still be a fun card. Still be pretty good. Fun scraps. See you guys in the next one.